The ace of a gym leader is usually the Pokemon with the highest level, for example Roxanne's Nosepass, Brawly's Makuhita, Flannery's Torkoal, and so on. I did a similar run in Fire Red and Leaf Green, but can I beat Pokemon Emerald with only gym leader aces? Each gym leader ace is pretty obvious, but there's one gym leader who has a more complicated history. Here are the rules. I can only use Pokemon in battle which gym leader used as an ace. I can catch other Pokemon since I need HMs to finish the run. I cannot use any items in battle besides Pokeballs. Held items are allowed, and I play on set mode. With that said, let's begin. I use the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to change Trico to Lunatone. In Pokemon Emerald are all of the gym leader aces available with one exception, and that is Lunatone. To get all 9 gym leader aces in this run and play the whole run with it, I use Lunatone as a starter Pokemon. And this way, May will have a Torchic, which in my mind is the starter Pokemon May should always have. The battle itself was very easy since Lunatone resists normal type attacks, not a big deal. Talking to Birch, I received the Pokédex and some Pokeballs from May. This means the run can now begin. In Petalburg Woods are wild slakoth, which can evolve into the ace of Norman. While I really don't like the Truant ability, this Pokemon has a lot of good utilities for the game. The first gym leader of the run is Roxanne. Rock types are hard to beat if I only had physical attacks. Fortunately, Lunatone has confusion early on. Roxanne leads with Geodude and I go with Slakoth. I want to set up Yawn, let Geodude fall asleep and then switch into Lunatone. It also has Harden to reduce physical damage. Afterwards it's just a matter of confusion and hope it is enough. Geodude goes into red and the first potion is already used here. 2 more confusion and Geodude is down. Next Geodude is quite similar, just this case I only use confusion and 2 hits remove the rock and ground type. Last Nosepass, her ace. It can stall for a good amount thanks to the not horrible special defense. Oranberry also helps letting it stay longer in battle, but in the end it doesn't even matter. And the confusion spam was good enough to beat the last Pokemon. Roxanne is defeated, and this is a nice start to the gym leader challenge. I can now sail over to Doofit Town, and inside the granite cave are wild Makuhita. It's Brawly's ace and one of the strongest Pokemon in the game if used correctly, which I try to do and spectacular fail at. Instead of doing the gym, I hop over to Slateport City. It connects to Route 110 and has wild electrikes. I know this might be a bit controversial, but Watson has 2 different aces throughout the games. One is Magneton in every game besides Emerald, and Electrike in Emerald. Since I actually played that version of the game, I use Electrike as the ace. Back at Doofit Town is the next gym leader Brawly. His team is quite literally only fighting type Pokemon, and I have Lunatone with confusion. This wasn't a battle, it was a slaughter fest. Only Makuhita was able to get a hit in, and it wasn't that bad. Even a critical hit would not have been enough. Brawly was destroyed, and I get a new badge. I feel like Lunatone is quite good in the early game. Back at Slateport City, in the museum are a lot of Team Arca grunts, but this specific one has a TM Thief for me. It will become very relevant later on. On Route 110 is a rival May and wants to fight. I heard this battle can be very hard to deal with, but I have a Lunatone, so the battle is already decided. First Wingull and I went with Electrike. Unfortunately, it still does not have electric type attack, which would be amazing here. It does have Thunder Wave, which is okay. Wingull dealt a lot of damage, and I hope this changes for the future battles. Lombre does not have a lot of good moves, but Makuhita should be able to handle it. Violet Throw deals good damage, and even though Swift and Absorb can be bad, the critical hit in the end was uncalled for. Lunatone in and 1 confusion was not enough, but Lombre cannot do a lot against it anyway, so it is okay. Last is Combusken, and it already has a fighting type, so a nice confusion does a lot of damage, while Double Kick looked a bit dangerous to be honest. Another confusion and the battle is over. May has lost, has no Pokemon left, and it wasn't too bad thanks to Lunatone's confusion. While beating up a lot of trainers, Slakoth reached level 18 thanks to the EXP share and is ready to evolve into Rigoroth. Some may say this is the best stage of the line, but it isn't even the final form. And I want to test it out immediately against the one rival who starts out weak and gets a little bit better later on, Wally. His team, if you can call that, is just one rolls and it got nearly one-shotted by a single scratch. The worst normal type attack in the game. Very sad, but Wally will find new teammates eventually. Maybe. The next gym leader is Watson, and I'm completely honest. This was the most frustrating battle in a long while. Even worse than any double team stuff. But one thing after another. First is Voltorb against Lunatone. The opponent is faster and hits with very few points of damage, but Confusion does less than half. Before Lunatone can use another move, Self-Destruct was activated, but it only pushes my rock Pokemon to about half. Electrike can be an issue and sometimes it is not. Confusion does over half. Confused, it hit itself into the red to burn a super potion. That is basically the best outcome I can imagine. It's actually amazing. Now Magneton is a different beast. It uses supersonic for some reason, but Lunatone was set on hypnosis the whole time. I switch into Makuhita and hope to get some free turns. Vital Throw does below half, and this is the point Magneton wakes up, uses Sonic Boom again, and Makuhita can deal a bit of damage with Rock Smash. Another Sonic Boom? Why? Shouldn't Shockwave be way better? Anyway, Magneton goes down and Watson wasn't able to use another healing item. Last is Manectric, Watson's ace. Makuhita goes down before getting a move off. I bring in Electrike and try to get Thunder Wave going. Cherry Berry removes the paralysis from Manectric's Thunder Wave. Now I need as many Leers I can get. The defense needs to be reduced to nothing for my last Pokemon to finish Manectric off, but it is harder than expected. Between staying paralyzed and seeing some setups, the amount of Leer is quite low, and after Manectric was able to boost up enough holes, it went on the offense, beating Electrike in one hit from full HP. I have Vigoroth coming in, using Cut, but it missed. That is horrifying. Another hits, but it's only good enough to get the Citrus Berry used. Afterwards, the amount of staying paralyzed, while I only need one or maybe two more hits, is infuriating. And when Vigoroth was finally able to hit, it was just enough to get the Super Potion going. That was really rough. My last Pokemon is Lunatone, and this was crazy. Rock Throw does below half, and Thunder Wave paralyzed Lunatone. Then Shockwave hits for big damage. It's basically over after a single hit. And Confusion did good damage, but it's most likely not enough. Now Manectric is paralyzed, but Lunatone missed. I was nearly screaming. But the very next turn, Manectric is paralyzed again just for Lunatone to finally hit with Rock Throw, and the last Pokemon goes down. Watson is defeated, and I am so happy to not battle against him again. That battle was very close, way too close in my opinion. At least I can now use Rock Smash outside of battle. Back at the Granite Cave are rocks to break, and sometimes they contain a wild Pokemon. One of those are Nosepass. It was Roxanne's ace, and let's see if I can work with it. While crossing the fiery path, I find a wild Torkoal. It is the ace of the fire gym leader and might be a great asset for the team. At the top end of Route 111, right outside the fiery path, is a nice person who gives me the TM for secret power. It also allows me to buy the TM in Slateport City. Easily one of the best attacks in the game. On Route 114 are wild swablu. They can evolve into Winona's ace and go from really bad to really good in one evolution. My only worry is that my team is way too defensive, but let's see. And in the Meteor Force is the last Pokemon for a long while, Solrock. I think Titanizer is a bit hard to evaluate since they are two gym leader in one, so they should have two aces as well. But Solrock is so close to Lunatone that I might just swap them around as I need them. The leader of Team Magma is at the top of Mount Chimney, and he wants a battle. Max's team is quite weak at this point, but made a lot of problems regardless. First is my Diana against my Torkoal. Intimidate is negated, and all I wanted to see is Ember's damage, which was really low, so I switch out into Makuhita and try to beat the Dark type that way. Sand attack doesn't matter, since Vital Throw will always hit, and the damage is immense. Burning is super potion as well, but after the second hit, Maxi switched into a Zubat. Double resisting fighting, but I wanted Makuhita to stay in until I saw Wing Attack beating it easily. Let's say that was not a good idea. I use Solrock next and have it use Confusion, which is super effective. Zubat cannot do a lot and goes down after the second Confusion hits it. My Tiana back in and I switch out into Vigoroth, hoping for it to beat the Dark type dog. While Secret Power does okay damage, the one sand attack screwed my Pokemon over big time. It missed a lot, way too many times, and will slowly lose to the opponent. I was really sad to see this, but sometimes there's nothing I can do. Well, I could have switched out to reset it, but I took this option and stayed in. I have electrike coming in, and while static paralyzed Mightyena, hitting with Spark was the one thing it could not survive anymore. Last is Camerupt, and this Pokemon can be really tough to beat. I just use Leer with electrike and then go down. Using Solrock again, since defense got lowered, I wanted to see Rock Throw's damage, but realized that Secret Power should only be a little bit weaker, but has a chance to confuse, which happened immediately as well. That was a nice turn of events, and Solrock was able to overcome Camerupt, beating it while itself was still standing. Maxi is out of Pokemon, but he had only 3, and it's the same number of Pokemon I lost here. So who is the real winner? While preparing for the next major battle, Makuhita reached level 24 and evolves into Hariyama. This Pokemon is very strong, and if Brawly would have been a later gym leader, it would have a Hariyama instead. Flannery is the fire type trainer and my team is quite good against fire type attacks, so it should be fine. Being a lot of levels behind is the only worry I have, but first is Numel and I went with swablu. This seems a bit odd, but swablu is not strong enough to beat most Pokemon and I forgot to switch it out for lunatone before the battle, so it's fine. While Secret Power could be great, getting it paralyzed and pushed it into healing range, that one overheat did knock swablu out. I use Solrock next and it doesn't really matter. Secret Power, Rock Throw, Confusion all do about the same, and since Numel is paralyzed, it cannot do a lot to fight back anyway. Slugma is just a fire type Pokemon and is very slow, so a single Rock Throw should be enough. But of course the first one missed, very unfortunate. Now comes Camerupt and this was quite interesting to see. It used Tackle, a very weak move, also resisted thanks to Solrock's Rock type, and I was able to do whatever I wanted. Secret Power also paralyzed, and that paralysis was hitting big time. I was so lucky that Camerupt wasn't able to do a lot. I know it just wanted to use that overheat so bad, but Solrock didn't let that happen. Burning the last Hyper Potion was great too. I think this particular fight against Camerupt is the key to victory against Flannery. Last is Torkoal and I switch out into my own Torkoal, hoping to see overheat, but it was sunny day. Very unfortunate but somewhat obvious in hindsight. I use electrike next and this is a funny interaction to me. For some reason overheat is considered a contact move and static paralyzed the opponent. I went ahead and used Hariyama now with Fake Out for some little damage. The idea was to use Secret Power, since Wild Throw lets it go last, but I changed it up when the sun stops shining, so that overheat with a lower special attack might not KO. But when the battle drew to a close, I switched back into Solrock to use one final Rock Throw and beat Flannery's last Pokemon. This battle is over and I thought it was quite hard to do, mostly due to the level difference. I should have trained up a little bit more, but it worked out fine. I went back to the fiery path and used strength to move some boulders around to grab the TM for Toxic. That move is very good for the next gym leader. Norman can be very hard to beat, but sometimes when the right strategy presents itself and the opponent likes to play along, the battle is manageable. First is Spinner and I went with Solrock. The opponent likes to use Tita Dance and I found some Personberry earlier to remove at least one of them. Everything is just pure damage. Secret Power did okay, but Confusion did even worse. The range was perfect to knock Spinner out without using the Hyper Potion. I got quite lucky to not get hit by Confusion to stop it. Next is Rigoroth and I switch out into Hariyama. Since Feint Attack is the best move it has against rock types, but fighting types resist it. Vital Throw did a lot of damage, into the red even. While Hyper Potion is used, the next Vital Throw charged up and hit critical to beat Rigoroth from full HP. Linoon is very dangerous, so I have to attack it immediately. Belly Drum boosts attack to the maximum, but loses HP, so Vital Throw hits and KOs. Last is Slaking and I switch into my Rigoroth, only to let it get destroyed by Facade. It's okay, I have Nosepass in the team again, just for this battle. In the off turn, Nosepass can use Toxic to start a passive damage. Slaking even wasted his one turn with counter for some reason, and I can switch back into Hariyama. Fake Out to remove another turn, very nasty by the way, and then Vital Throw to knock Norman's ace out. The gym was fine, I had all the tools needed to beat him, but I got very lucky as well. Each Pokemon went down without any real resistance. Thanks to the badge, I can use surf outside of battle, and I travel to the abandoned ship to get the TM Ice Beam. I will need it later. After visiting New Morville and saving the planet, I get the TM Thunderbolt as a gift from Watson, the best electric type attack in the game. While traveling to the next gym, Electrike evolves into manectric. This is Watson's ace in Pokemon Emerald, and I hope it does a good job for my team as well. I beat up Team Aqua at the weather station to be able to cross the bridge over and fight May again. This battle was quite easy. I just used manectric with Thunderbolt and everything dropped in 1 or 2 hits. It's not even the level difference, it's just manectric is that much better. Beating her gives me the HM for Fly, a very good HM to travel around, but there's one small obstacle to overcome before I can use it. The gym leader in Fortree City, Winona, has a big weakness against manectric, but not every Pokemon in her team falls down that easily to some electric type attacks. First is Swablu, and I went with manectric, use 1 Thunderbolt and Swablu is defeated. Winona's ace Altaria is on another level. I switch into solrock to negate Earthquake and see Dragon Dance before Psychic Power hits to paralyze. I think the opponent has a plan and wants to use that plan no matter what, like Kadabras with Disable. This Altaria wants to be faster than Solrock and use Dragon Dance over and over again, while I hit with Rock Throw for a lot of damage. I wanted to set up the KO with Fire Spin, but of course, that was the only turn where Rock Throw missed and Hyper Potion was used anyway. Very unlucky. But I got a critical hit as a compensation and Altaria loses in the end pretty badly, I might add. Tropius was quite funny. It charges up Solar Beam. I switch into Torkoal to tank it easily. Tropius thought, okay, this is a fire Pokemon with fire type attacks, let's use Sunny Day to boost fire type damage. Okay, thank you I guess. Before it got finished off, Winona switched into Pelipper, tanking Ember easily. I switch into manectric now and try to clean up the battle. 1 Thunderbolt is enough to beat Pelipper. Skarmory in, and it does survive a hit, but cannot do anything in return. Steed and Flying both are not very effective. Last is Tropius again, but it already has low HP, which Thunderbolt took away as well. Winona is defeated, and while this battle can be very tough sometimes, it mostly hinges on Altaria's moves used. At the top of Mount Pyre is a TM for Shadow Ball, which might be quite useful for the Elite Four. And on the outside is the Magma emblem to enter the Team Magma hideout for the next major battle. Well, technically May is the next major battle, but her team is so weak at this point, the battle is just a one-sided beat down. Beating her gives me access to Lily Cove department store. He has some nice items, but one of them is a TM for Hyper Beam, the strongest attack. I went to the Magma hideout to find Maxi deep inside. And this battle was very weird to say the least. I knew I need Personberry on Torkoal, but I didn't expect for Mightyena to get switched out when I pressed on Body Slam. Camerupt got a lot of damage, but it got even more interesting when Torkoal was basically defeated. Camerupt used Takedown instead of Earthquake, missed, and then got paralyzed just for Torkoal to get the finishing blow in. That was crazy to me. Against Mightyena, Torkoal has no chance, goes down, and I can clean up with manectric. Crobat can be a bit annoying if it wants to, but it doesn't this time and goes down easily. This maxi battle was short and simple, but using Swagger is always a gamble which sometimes just doesn't pay off. Now to Slateport City to witness the great submarine heist, and then hop over to the Aqua hideout to see the submarine driving away, or swimming away, or is it diving away? Anyway, surfing over to Moss Deep City and grab the Super Rod from the Fisherman. With it, I can use it on Route 132, east of Pacific Lock Town, to find wild horses. This is the last Pokemon for my team, and it might be the strongest one. At level 32, it evolves into Seadra. I trained a lot for special attack and hope the water typing can solve a lot of major battles to come. Also, Swablu can now evolve into Altaria. I think this is very similar to the Magikarp and Gyarados situation. Swablu was quite weak, but not anymore. And finally Vigoroth evolves into Slaking. This is an interesting evolution, losing every other turn but receiving one of the best stats in the game. And also there's one move made for Slaking. Now with everyone leveled up, I can now go on to the next gym and battle Tate and Liza. My team is quite diverse, so it should be quite easy to beat them. But it wasn't. I had manectric in at first to quickly defeat Xatu and then Sidra's Surf to deal as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, Xatu survived the hit and the Surf wasn't quite as good as I hoped it was. Also, Earthquake removed manectric immediately, was quite bad. The rest of the battle is actually just a battle for attrition. The only really good Pokemon I still have is Slaking in its Hyper Beam. There's good synergy here, since Hyper Beam needs an off turn and Slaking's ability says it can only make a move every other turn. Makes this a perfect combination to basically use Hyper Beam without any detriment. Hyper Beam is also a normal type attack which is always physical in this game, and in combination with the Silk Scarf it deals fantastic damage. So huge in fact that even the opposing rock type Pokemon get nearly crushed by this attack. You might not believe it, but I like it a lot. The only craziest thing for this battle was that my whole team loses one by one and the last Pokemon standing was in fact Slaking, delivering the finishing blow or finishing beam to remove Solrock. The battle was interesting, I enjoyed it quite a bit, but now it's time to enter the last story part of the run. First, a multi-battle against Maxi at the Moss Deep Space Center, which was pretty easy since Metang decided to help out this time and Surf pretty much wrecked Team Magma. Then entering the Seafloor Cavern to find Team Aqua's leader Archie at the end. Unfortunately for him, I do have good Pokemon who are very well equipped at handling his team. My Diana is pretty good but loses very hard against Hariyama, especially when I attach a Personberry just in case Swagger gets used. Against Crobat I switch out into Manectric. Thunderbolt deals amazing damage, and even with Bite letting my Pokemon flinch, Static helped out. Confuse Ray was something I very much anticipated and had a Personberry on Manectric as well. Last is Sharpedo and it has no special defense and is weak to electric type attacks. Archie is defeated, and before I can finally challenge the last gym leader in this Pokemon challenge, I do have to awaken Rayquaza to let it stop the battle between Groudon and Kyogre. The world is saved and the path is clear to face the final gym leader. Juan is an interesting character, got shoehorned in with Emerald since they need a Wallace for a different role, but it's fine for me. The battle is really something, especially with Manectric in the team. First a Luftisk and I have Manectric using Thunderbolt and the water type is defeated. Now comes Whiscash. Since it's part ground I switch into Hariyama, but got hit with Earthquake head on. One fake out to remove some HP and then Wild Throw while Rain Dance got activated. Another big hit before Hariyama can deliver the finishing blow to Whiscash. Juan's Ace Kingdra is usually the hardest one to beat, and while Citrus Berry recovered some HP, I had switched into Sidra since I believed it could do something, but it didn't do anything before going down. Hariyama back in, first fake out to remove the last rain turn and then use Wild Throw. Even when double team looks scary, Wild Throw never misses. The damage range was great, but Water Pulse could be an issue. Hyper Potion was used to fill up Kingdra again, but the next Wild Throw got a critical hit. But Hariyama finally went down. Manectric back in and I got very lucky that Thunderbolt immediately hits to remove Kingdra from the battle. Next is Helio, but one Thunderbolt is enough to knock it out. Last is Crawdaunt and it doesn't stand a chance either, going down in one hit as well. Juan is defeated, and that was the last badge. I can now visit the Elite Four to say hello, but since I am now able to use Waterfall outside of combat, I travel to the Meteor Falls and get a TM Dragonclaw, sitting in the last part of the cave. And while I'm here, I can find Wild Bagons. They have a very low chance to hold a Dragon Scale, which would be needed to evolve Sidra even further, but that comes later. First I do have to battle the second rival in this game, Wally. His team is interesting and very strong if he has the right tools, but Sidra does not care about any of that. First is Altaria, and unfortunately it is double weak to ice type attacks and it goes down to Ice Beam. Next is Magneton, and I thought Sidra will lose here, but a critical hit Surf removed Magneton before I could make any issues. Roselia is grass and weak to ice as well, but it did survive a hit and uses Giga Drain, which actually knocks Sidra out from full HP without any critical hit. That is rough. I use my own Altaria next and let it fly into the sky to then come down again and knock Roselia out with a super effective hit. Delcatty is usually quite weak, but this assist is pretty great, using Dragon Breath. a super effective move, but the damage is very low. Hitting with Sing is a different story. I used this opportunity to switch out into Hariyama and knock the caddy out with a wild throw, but not before seeing a dragon dance. That was spooky. Last Gadwa, and I know that Hariyama cannot do a lot here, using secret power, some small amount of damage before going down to psychic. Since it's the last Pokemon, I use slaking and push on hyper beam, hitting and beating Gardevoir easily. Wally is out of Pokemon and his team is quite intriguing. But that's it for the small fry. He has to return home while I move on. While preparing for the Elite Four, I thought, why not let Seadra evolve into Kingdra, which is a true form of Juan's ace. Fits perfect, and that Pokemon is great. That's it, I'll do it. I challenge the Elite Four now, and the first opponent is Sydney, the Dark-type trainer. Thanks to my Diana, I will not start with Hariyama. First is a Dark-type dog, and I go with Kingdra. Surf does nearly KO from full HP, very promising. Takedown does a good amount of damage, but the recoil does not take my Diana out. Full restore is used here, but that just means I can attack twice more and it's over. There's a Shiftry, but I have Ice Beam ready for this case. It does way over half, while nothing else really happened. One more beam to knock it out. Cacturne is an interesting Pokemon. It does survive an Ice Beam, and Cotton Spore comes down. Reducing speed is an issue, especially when Needle Arm lets Kingdra flinch. At least now I know how Cacturne was supposed to be used. Groudon is part water, so Kingdra does not have any moves to use, and I switch into Hariyama now. First Fake Out, then Wild Throw to beat the Dark type. The damage Hariyama had to take was quite a lot. Last is Absol, and I didn't remember it having Aerial Ace, so Hariyama is done. It's the final Pokemon, so I use Slaking now and press on Hyper Beam to obliterate Absol in one hit. Sydney is defeated, and this battle showed me the Elite Four might be promising to do at this level. Phoebe's Ghost-type team makes things a bit more complicated, especially since I don't have any super effective moves. Well, I do have, for example, Shadow Ball from Mount Pyre, but Slaking has the ability Truant, so it would take a while. First is Dusclops, and I went with Kingdra. The opponent uses Protect first every time. And thanks to pressure, I would waste much needed power points here, so I tried to play around it in the first turn. But later on it's nearly impossible. Still, it worked out fine. Banette is quite weak on the defense, so it wouldn't matter which moves I use, and it goes down after 2 hits. Sableye got a huge chunk of HP removed, but Kingdra already took too many hits and goes down to another Shadow Ball. Manectric is able to come in and push the last remaining HP out of Sableye, defeating it with a Thunderbolt. Next Dusclops comes in now, and I switch into Altaria. I expected Earthquake and wanted to deal some damage. Dragonclaw is okay, nothing too major. But Dusclops has a lot of defenses, so I'm a bit too harsh maybe. It also has Ice Beam, which means that Altaria will not stay in the battle for too long. Manectric is back in. Thunderbolt did not knock it out, just barely. Very sad to see. While Full Restore gives back all the HP, Thunderbolt seems to hit quite well, and the second one even did hit critical. But Manectric loses to Earthquake in the end. Slaking now in, my last hope. Another Full Restore, but Shadow Ball did a huge number, that's crazy. And while Slaking slacks off a bit, Dusclops cannot deal relevant damage. Another hit and Dusclops just falls over. Last is Banette, and while Slaking has to recover from that brutal last turn, Banette seems to deal no damage as well. Shadow Ball hits, but it is just barely not enough, maybe 1 or 2 HP left. I switch into Solrock, take any move Banette has to offer, and then use one Confusion to knock the Ghost type out. Phoebe is defeated, and this battle wasn't too bad. I just didn't have enough good moves here, but it worked out fine. Glacia was quite interesting since Hariyama is part fighting and can hit super effective. But it is so slow, and Wild Throw even has a negative priority, which means Hariyama will always attack last. Against Celio I can set up Bulk Up first to increase attack and then use Wild Throw as long as possible, defeating Celio, Glalie, another Celio and another Glalie. But Hariyama had to get a hit from every single Pokemon, which was quite a lot. Not sure if I could do this battle better, since I do have Brick Break, but it only saves a hit or 2. So when Glacia's ace War Rain entered, it was over for Hariyama, 1 surf and it is done. I bring in Manectric next and Thunderbolt did fantastic damage. Really amazing Pokemon. But that Ice Beam was nasty. Did a critical hit and Manectric is defeated. It's not a big deal, I have Slaking in, use Hyper Beam. And War Rain is defeated. Glacia is done, but this was to be expected if my team has a fighting type and an electric type as well. The last Elite 4 member is Drake, and it is a dragon team waiting for me. This is actually quite fine for me since Kingdra has a nasty surprise for Drake, and I hope it goes a long way. First a shell gun, and I went with Kingdra since Protect is the go-to choice for the opponent. I went ahead to use Agility. A second Protect to waste a turn, but then Ice Beam finally hits to beat Shellgun. Next is Flygon, and thanks to Agility, Ice Beam was used before Flygon could make a move. Altaria is quite similar, it just goes down to one hit, but I wasn't too sure about it at first. Against elements it should be enough, but it wasn't. It was very close since Dragonclaw hits and oh boy, it left 2 HP. Citrus Berry won't help a lot here. Full Restore is used on Drake's side, and when the next Ice Beam hits, it was now enough to KO. Nice. Last is a Kingdra Mirror Mesh, but I only have Ice Beam, which did okay damage, and Body Slam removed my Pokemon in the end. And now comes the stuff I like the most. Slaking in, and it uses another Hyper Beam to finish the last Pokemon off. That is true, Hyper Beam Gaming. Drake is defeated, and that only leaves one more battle, the champion. The last battle is against Wallace, the champion of Pokemon Emerald. Can my team full of gym leader aces beat the Pokemon Challenge? This is a battle to find out. Team Water does look great, but let's see how far it goes. First Whiteout against my Manectric. Thunderbolt did great damage into the red even, while Water Sprout is based on the remaining HP, so the damage was very small. Full Restore used, another Thunderbolt into the red again, and Wallace switches out into Whiscash to negate a Thunderbolt. I will switch too. Altaria in, and when I saw Dragonclaw's damage, I thought, yeah, let's go. Dragon Dance to increase attack and speed. Surf doesn't deal a lot, so I went for some more, as in multiples. When the Citrus Berry activated, I went for Fly, the only physical damage Altaria really can do, which did decent damage. It's okay, nothing special, while Hyper Beam missed. I assumed that move would have knocked Altaria out easily. Another hit and Whiscash is done. Wailord back in, and I just used another Fly which hits and knocks the water type out. Here comes Tentacruel. It does have a lot of defenses and it takes the hit quite easily, while Sludge Bomb was used and of course Poison to knock Altaria out. Very unlucky. I bring in Manectric again and use one Thunderbolt to beat Tentacruel. Why do opponents love to use Gyarados against an electric type Pokemon? I just don't get it. Just one move and it is done too. Ludicolo comes in and I switch out into Kingdra. Double resisting Surf is great. Ice Beam did no relevant damage, while Leech Seed is used to regain a lot of HP. So I have to switch out into Hariyama while Double Team was used. For some reason I thought Hariyama could tank more hits, but Surf did an insane amount of damage, while Bullcup doesn't look too amazing now. I just got one Wild Throw in before Hariyama was defeated. That was quite sad, to be honest. Slaking in and Hyper Beam missed? That is horrible. Let's go with Secret Power. It has a higher hit rate and knocks Ludicolo out too. Last Pokemon is Milotic and I switch into Solrock now. I had a plan which wasn't to let it go against the Surf, okay? It didn't work out. Manectric back in, one Thunderbolt doesn't even deal half and then go down to Surf. That is fine, or planned, maybe even staged. Slaking is back in and one final Hyper Beam to knock Milotic, the last Pokemon of the run, out. Wallace is defeated, and Team Gym Leader Aces is officially the new champion of Hoenn. Well, or would be, there's one more battle left to do. The final battle in this Pokemon Emerald Challenge is against the one true champion Steven. He has a very strong team and would beat up the Elite 4 easily. But can my team of Gym Leader Aces win? Let's find out. First is Skarmory against my Manectric. One Thunderbolt was enough to knock the Steel Bird out of the sky. Next is Agron and I switch into Kingdra. That Earthquake did a lot of damage, but Surf is super effective and Agron has no special defenses. Claydol is very dangerous. It does have Reflect and Light Screen, and it used the wrong one. Reflect doesn't help against Kingdra at all. At least this is the one Pokemon where I can remove 2 full restores already. Never know if Steven might need them or not. His ace Metagross is here and this Pokemon is very hard to beat. Surf did exactly half, not even 1 HP more, or Citrus Berry would have been activated. Kingdra barely survived the hit and I'm not sure what I did here, but I use Ice Beam? What? This doesn't make any sense, but Metagross uses this opportunity to knock Kingdra out. I have solrock in now and use overheat, which is super effective, and Metagross melted away. Not sure if that critical hit mattered, and I don't care. Emaldo is part rock and part bug, so Rock Slide made the most sense to me, but it missed of course, and Water Pulse didn't do half. Another Rock Slide and the range seems perfect to knock it out next turn, but Water Pulse confused Solrock. I went for the 50-50, either Emaldo goes down or Solrock, but my Pokemon got the short end of the stick. Let's go Hariyama. I gave it Brick Break and Hariyama is faster to knock Emaldo out. Last Pokemon Steven has is Cradily, and Brick Break is super effective, removing way more than half of his HP while it used Ingrain. That means just one more hit and the final Pokemon of the final battle is finally defeated. Steven lost this battle, and this means that Team Hyper Beam is now champion of Pokemon Emerald. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. I see you in the next one.